The first time I saw a billionaire fire a gun, it wasn't on TV. It was in his own hallway, at 2 in the morning, lights out. Alarms dead, his little girl screaming my name, while I stood between her and a man in a ski mask, with nothing but a metal desk lamp in my hands. He fired once into the wall plaster, exploding, then again into the intruder's shoulder as the guy lunged toward us, and while that man stumbled away, bleeding, the child wrapped both arms around my waist and sobbed, "Maya, don't let him take me." Yeah, that happened. And if you're wondering how a black maid ended up as the last line of defense in a billionaire's fortress, we've got to go back a little, because it didn't start with a gun, it started with a teacup. My name is Maya Williams, and most of my life I've been the person rich folks look straight through. You know what I mean? I grew up over a nail salon, fell asleep, to the sound of dryers and gossip, worked every job that comes with bleach and rubber gloves. No degree, no savings, just a stack of references that said, Maya shows up, Maya works hard. That was enough to get me hired at the Fairchild estate. Glass and marble everywhere, more cameras than I'd ever seen, owned by James Fairchild, tech billionaire, with a jaw like a movie star and eyes like locked doors. On my first day, the head housekeeper pulled me into the pantry and repeated one rule 3 times like a prayer. Do not go near his daughter. The daughter had a name too, Chloe, 5 years old. Golden curls and a mother she wasn't going to see again 6 months earlier. Her mom, Isabella, had died in a car bombing, meant for James. And after that, staff whispered that the child screamed, threw things, and no one touched her, not even him. On my 3rd day, I heard it for myself, that scream. Not a spoiled brat whine, but torn open loud, the kind of sound that makes grown people stop moving. I was wiping down a counter that could have paid my rent for a year. When it ripped through the hallway, the chef ducked behind the prep table like there was gunfire, one housekeeper muttered. Not again. And walked out of the room. Then Chloe appeared barefoot in the doorway, in pink pajamas. Face blotchy curls, wild chest heaving, and she shouted, "I want my mom! I hate this house! I hate you! I hate everybody!" Grabbed a full glass of orange juice and hurled it at the fridge so hard it exploded into glass and sticky pulp. Staff flinched, but nobody stepped toward her, and I knew I was supposed to stay invisible. Yet grief has a sound, and hers hit that same spot inside me that cracked when they lowered my mama into the ground. So when she grabbed a porcelain teacup and threw it toward the doorway, and it curved just enough to slam into my collarbone, I didn't react the way they expected. It hurt. That little cup caught bone, my shirt tore, warm blood started soaking through. I staggered back, everyone gasped like I was about to explode, but instead of yelling or backing away, I took one steady breath, set my cloth down, and crouched a few feet from her on the cold tile. "Shh, baby. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm just here to help you breathe," I said, voice low and even, like I used to talk my little cousins down from storms. She looked at me like I'd broken the laws of the house and whispered, "Daddy said nobody can talk to me like it was carved in stone," and I nodded. "I know what he said, but I heard you crying, and I figured somebody ought to sit close till it passes. I can stay or I can go, you tell me." The kitchen went quiet in that way where even the fridge hum seems to stop. Then she scooted closer, inch by inch, leaned her head against my good shoulder, and clamped her small hand around my wrist, like an anchor, still crying, but softer now, like the sobs finally had somewhere to land. That's how we were when her father walked in, his daughter pressed against a bleeding Maid on the floor. James has the kind of presence that makes people stand up straight or tall. Expensive shirt, gray eyes, always scanning for problems. And when he saw us, his face went from stone to steel. "What the hell is this?" he snapped, and the whip in his voice made Chloe flinch. I started to explain, telling him she couldn't catch her breath, and I was just trying to calm her down, but he cut me off. I gave clear instructions. No one goes near my daughter. You broke protocol. You're bleeding on my floor. You're fired. Pack your things. 3 days in, and that was it. No questions about why his 5-year-old was throwing porcelain. Just security, hovering, to walk me out like a broken appliance. I could have left, silent, kept my pride, but as they turned me toward the door, I heard Chloe croak. They always leave so small. It barely made it past her lips. And that sentence hit me harder than the teacup. Please, sir, don't send me away. She's hurting. You know she is. Don't make her do this alone again, I said. And he didn't blink, just told the housekeeper to get me off the property. 10 minutes later, I was on the back steps with a duffel bag and a cheap bandage rain building over a garden, bigger than my whole old block, feeling that familiar mix of numb and furious you get when someone reminds you exactly how replaceable they think you are. I climbed into the back of the town car, tried not to cry in front of the driver, started calculating bus routes and how long my savings would last, because when you're the help word travels fast. What I didn't know was that upstairs, Mr. No Second Chances was watching the security footage, seeing his little girl wind up and throw that cup, seeing me take the hit, and stay seeing Chloe lean into a stranger for the first time since the funeral. The driver cleared his throat and said Mr. Fairchild asked me to wait, and a minute later the car door opened, and James stood there in the drizzle, hair damp, tie gone, looking less like a magazine cover and more like a tired man. I was wrong, he said. 3 words I don't think he was used to saying. He told me he'd watched the footage, that he'd been protecting rules instead of his child, that I was the first person she'd let touch her in 6 months. Then he asked me to come back, not as a maid, but as Chloe's live-in nanny room next to hers, better pay. You don't need a certificate to care, he said, and right now that's what she needs most. That first night back, I moved into a real bedroom, not the storage closet they'd given me before, and I'd barely put my shirts in the drawer when there was a soft knock. I opened the door, and there she was, curls messy, stuffed bare in one arm, blanket dragging on the floor. "Can I sleep in here just tonight?" she whispered. "Daddy said you're staying now." And there was no way on earth I was saying no to that. I let her climb into the huge bed, tucked the blanket around her, and when she asked if I knew any songs, I sang the old lullaby my grandma used to hum over summer storms, simple and low. And by the second verse, she was breathing steady, no screams, no nightmares, just a little girl finally resting. Lying there on top of the covers, staring at the ceiling, I realized this wasn't just work anymore. Whether James understood it or not, his daughter had picked me, and once a child decides you're their safe place, you can't unknow that. For a little while, life in that house almost looked normal from the outside. Mornings were braiding her hair, letting her pick the blue dress she loved, walking her down to breakfast, while the chef pretended not to smile when she demanded pancakes, like Mom used to make with cinnamon. The first time she folded her hands at that long table and murmured, "Thank you for pancakes, and thank you that Daddy's here today." I watched James freeze for half a second, then soften in this small, awkward way, like he was afraid to move and break it. He started showing up differently. Phone face down instead of glued to his hand jacket, off, actually coming to the park with us, pushing her on the swings, while she yelled, "Daddy, look. I'm flying." And for a minute I let myself believe the worst might be over, that the house was just going to quietly heal around her. Then he told me about the photos. One late night in his office, city lights in the windows, and the kind of tired on his face money doesn't fix, he said that after Isabella died, something else had started. Someone had been sending him pictures of Chloe at the playground, on the front steps, one shot, clearly taken through her bedroom window, another in the bathroom, with steam still on the mirror, no ransom note, no demand. Just a quiet message I can reach your child whenever I want. He'd done what men like him do, thrown money at it. More guards, more tech, more walls. And still the photos kept coming. He looked at me and said, "You notice things my guys don't. Will you keep your eyes open and tell me what you see?" And I told him, "I'm doing this for her, not for you," and he just nodded. "That's exactly why I'm asking. Once you start looking, the whole place feels different." It was Chloe who found the first listening device half buried near the rose bushes. "Look shiny," she said, holding it up like treasure. And when James turned it over and a tiny red light blinked, I watched the color drain from his face. Another bug showed up behind imported honey in the pantry. Then we found a tablet hidden in the old library, showing secret camera angles from rooms we thought were private, including hers and mine. It stopped being just creepy and started feeling like war the night I opened her favorite music box and found a transmitter wired into the base tucked under the felt like a secret heart. Somebody had been inside that child's bedroom, standing over her toys, over her bed, wiring up her refuge like a set, and they hadn't tripped a single alarm. We checked who had access, who could walk through that house without questions, whose key cards lined up with the wrong hours, and the line pointed straight at the head housekeeper, the same woman who'd looked me dead in the eye and said, "No one touches the girl on my first day." By dawn, she was gone, escorted out quietly, no scene, just an empty room, and a heavy silence where her authority used to sit. Then an envelope appeared with my name on it, tucked under the newspaper at the front door. Inside were photos from my own life. Me as a teenager outside my old corner store with my little brother, him in cuffs against a squad car. Me in scrubs at a nursing home, hair wrapped, eyes half closed. And finally, a shot from inside the estate, me holding Chloe while she cried into my neck. On the back, printed in neat block letters, it said, "People like you don't belong in houses like this. Leave before it's too late." And those 4 words, "people like you," carried every side eye I'd ever gotten in a rich neighborhood. I won't lie, my hands shook for a second, because now I knew they'd peeled back my past, too. But fear turned into something sharper, because you don't spend your whole life being told you're less, and then run just because a coward learns your history. Eventually, James told me the name behind it all. Lydia Corin, an old friend of Isabella's who'd stepped into dirty money, been cut off when things went bad, and disappeared after the bombing. Now she was back. Chloe wasn't just a child to her, she was leveraged, the legal key to a trust tied to projects worth more money than I can say out loud, without laughing. And if they could take her or prove James unfit, they could get their hands on it. They didn't need to kill her, they needed to own her. Once I understood that, every flicker and shadow looked like a test. So when the power cut one night, everything going dark in one clean sweep, too perfect to be an accident, I woke up fast, no humming vents, no glow under the door, just heavy quiet, and Chloe's warm weight pressed against my side. I slipped out of bed, grabbed the pistol our security chief had insisted I keep, and that's when I heard it, a soft metallic click from the wardrobe, not the hallway, from inside the room. My brain barely had time to form a thought. "I just moved," I told Chloe. "Stay under the covers, do not move," grabbed the metal lamp from the nightstand, and hurled it at the wardrobe with everything I had. A tall figure in black stumbled out, mask, gloves, full gear. He grabbed my arm and slammed me into the wall. But being the help your whole life teaches you how to fight, even when you've never taken a class. I kicked, elbowed, clawed at his mask, kept my body between him and that bed. She was screaming my name when the door flew open and James appeared, bare feet, t-shirt, gun in both hands. Absolutely nothing like the polished man from the magazines. 2 shots cracked, one into the wall, one into the intruder's shoulder, and the man bolted down the hall as the house came alive with emergency lights and pounding boots. "Get them to the panic room now," our security chief shouted over the radios, and that's how I ended up running barefoot, down a hidden staircase behind a bookshelf, carrying Chloe on my hip, while she clung to my neck like a life jacket. We sealed ourselves in a steel-lined room stocked with food and water, a wall of monitors showing grainy footage of armed men sweeping the halls, and she shook so hard her teeth chattered. "Don't leave me, Maya," she kept saying into my shirt, over and over, and I held her and told her the only honest thing I had. "I'm not going anywhere. I've got you," until my voice cracked. Outside that door, they did their jobs. Security teams clearing the estate agents, getting called, 2 of Lydia's men dragged away in cuffs, and the trail led straight back to her. We turned over everything, recording statements, photos, and when Lydia finally pulled up to the gate in daylight in a white coat, acting like she still owned a piece of this place, there were unmarked cars waiting. She tried one last time to put me back in my place, looked me up and down and said, almost sweet, "You should have stayed in your lane. People like you drown in deep water." And I stepped closer with my phone in my hand, playing audio of her own voice talking about taking the girl and unlocking the trust, and said, "Funny, I was just thinking the same about you." Federal agents stepped forward, badges up, cuffs ready, and for someone who'd haunted our lives for months, it took less than a minute to have her in the back of a car, still hissing that we'd never really be safe, that there's always another wolf. Maybe that's true in a big picture way, but as the gate closed and the sirens faded, I knew one thing for sure. That little girl was upstairs in her own bed, and the woman who thought she could use her like a key was headed somewhere she couldn't touch her. So that's how I went from "don't touch the girl" to "you're the only one I trust with her," from being told people like you don't belong in houses like this, to being the person who helped keep that house from losing the one thing that actually mattered. Now I want to throw it to you. If you were in my shoes, underpaid, underestimated, called the help, before you even opened your mouth, would you have stayed and fought for that child? Or would you have walked away to protect yourself? Do you think people like Lydia are just a few sick individuals, or part of a bigger game where money and power let some folks treat everybody else like pawns? Be honest with yourself. Have you ever looked at the person cleaning your office, watching your kids, serving your table, and quietly decided they mattered less than the people cutting the checks? Tell me in the comments what you think. Tell me if you believe I did the right thing, or if I crossed a line that wasn't mine to cross, and if you've ever been the one everybody counted out until the day you were the only one holding everything together. I really want to hear that story too.